Welcome back to Not Quite My Tempo with Chris. We are back for the summer movie season. I'm not on WFNP Rosendale for the summer, but we're continuing things here on YouTube. There's too much movie fun to be had this summer for me to pause the show. I'm going to do my segments as separate YouTube videos during the summer. Expect new uploads on Wednesdays and Saturdays, so you get some of the show sprinkled throughout your week. Let's start the summer off on here by reviewing a movie a little late, and that is the new Star Wars movie, the first new Star Wars movie in 7 years, The Mandalorian and Grogu. Directed by Jon Favreau, once a lone bounty hunter, Mandalorian Din Djarin, played by Pedro Pascal, and his apprentice Grogu embark on an exciting new Star Wars adventure. I was fairly excited for this movie. It is new Star Wars in the theaters, and the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian show on Disney Plus are really strong. Season 3 of the show was pretty weak, though, with the writing and overall story with the Empire and these remnants. The trailers for this movie weren't the most exciting at promoting what this movie would be as the film continuation of this story with these characters, but I was excited to see a Star Wars movie in the theater, but unfortunately this was not a very impactful Star Wars story. It's a fun ride at points, but it has story and pacing problems, and I'm not sure what more can be done with these characters at this point. So I want to start with some positives, because I did enjoy this movie with the Mandalorian action and adventure. Din Djarin is at this point where he's working for the New Republic in tracking down leaders of the Empire that are still out there in the galaxy trying to bring the Empire back and continue to impose their authority. Sigourney Weaver plays a leader in the New Republic that he reports to and gets his missions from. The story here has some ties to the post-Return of the Jedi era in Star Wars with the remnants of the Empire and the New Republic and seeing the aftermath of the war and where it goes into the sequel trilogy. But a big part of the show, especially earlier on, is the bounty hunter Western criminal underworld Mando operates in. The show had ties to the Empire and larger Star Wars world from the beginning, but it kept things a little simpler with these missions he would go on with chasing these bounties and making allies, making some enemies, getting into trouble, and finding all this dangerous adventure throughout the galaxy as he's trying to protect Grogu. And I really enjoyed the crime world stuff and him going to these nasty hangouts and hideouts and dealing with crime lords and stuff like that, him getting into standoffs and shootouts. Season 3 of the show gets away from that with how big it got with the lore and everything, and this movie does take place around the conflict with the New Republic and the Imperial remnants, but it also manages to get back to some of those crime world aspects. The Hutts are a pretty major part of the story in a way that ties in pretty decently with the bigger mission with the Empire. I did appreciate them getting back to some of the street-level stuff of the Star Wars world. Jeremy Allen White plays Rada the Hutt, who is Jabba's son, and I thought it was kind of weird when they announced Jeremy Allen White would be voicing him. It seemed pretty random, and seeing a Hutt talk is a little strange, but I actually enjoyed this character and his role in the story. The way Mando ends up meeting the Hutts and Rada in this story makes decent sense. This isn't the most complex or brilliant story, but what they do with some of the characters and a bit of the arcs they give them, especially the characters like a Hutt that you wouldn't expect too much depth from, there's definitely some moments with the characters here I did find compelling. And for that Mandalorian experience, with these two going to different planets and hideouts, getting into shootouts, fighting criminals, and making deals to track down his bounty, you get him working with Zeb from Rebels in this story. Martin Scorsese plays a really fun character here that helps him out a little bit. This movie has a lot of Star Wars fun that is very safe. We've seen these kinds of elements before, but I did have some fun with it. The action in particular in this movie is really good. The hand-to-hand fights with Mando, the chaotic shootouts, Mando being so tough and powerful as he goes through these criminals, fighting to protect his son and play a role in this larger conflict in the galaxy. If you want some really cool Mandalorian action and some of the criminal underworld of Star Wars, I was pretty happy with how this movie delivered on that. The relationship with Mando and Grogu has also always been very emotional with this father-son relationship. The arc of Mando finding this other being he has a connection with and cares for after facing trauma of his childhood and being alone for so long, the way these two look out for each other and learn from each other on their adventures. I have some problems with this movie and how it works as a Star Wars movie and in the adventures of Mando and Grogu, but I can't deny that some of these moments with these characters and how much they care about each other gets really emotional. The story of this movie of Mando and Grogu going on this adventure tracking down this bounty does lead to a solid Mandalorian experience, but it's also one of the movie's biggest problems. It's too basic and not enough new to offer as a Star Wars movie. I saw the trailer for this and thought it looked like a decent but pretty redundant Mandalorian story, and that's what it is really. You get a lot of the fun elements of this part of the world that has some of the feel of the earlier seasons at points with the crime world and shady characters and brutal action, but it really feels like they haven't figured out anything new they can do with these characters, both in the crime stories they tell with them and with their relationship. The crime story is engaging enough, but at this point in the journey of these characters, it feels very repetitive. and with the emotional moments with the characters, they still have their moments, but it's also repeating similar beats with the father-son relationship, how close they are. It has the emotions because these characters' bond is strong, but when you get to the end of the movie and get the resolution to all this, I feel like I had fun and felt something a little bit, but I feel like these beats have been done a bunch of times in more meaningful ways earlier in the show. Even how they had their goodbye at the end of season 2, and it was just undone, and now it's still these ideas of protection and fatherhood. These characters feel kind of stuck now, and I don't think this movie added anything new to them. It's redoing the beats that worked in the show, but the show built them up more, and seeing this character change and these two grow closer made it rewarding. This movie has those feelings at times because these arcs were strong, but it's a much less impactful version because these characters' journey feels like it truly ended a while ago, and now it's just continuing for the sake of it. The pacing is also very strange at points. It can feel like episodes of the show tied together into a movie. The action has points where it feels like it goes on forever, and then will go away for a long stretch of time and really slow down. It's not paced or spaced out very well. The times where it slows down has some sweet moments, but again, the character themes feel really played out at this point, even if they have charm. Some of the dialogue is also very flat and cheesy at points. Some of the character interactions feel very awkward, and the runtime is a little bit too long, and with these pacing problems, it feels even longer. The way it builds into the final battle is very unnatural. Overall, my feeling on this movie is more positive than negative. I had fun seeing Star Wars in theaters with these two characters. The bounty hunting and criminal underworld side of things works in pretty nicely here with the larger plot with the Empire, but this story doesn't add much new to the adventures of the Mandalorian and Grogu. It's very basic at a time when we've seen these characters do so much at this point, and the character arcs and emotional beats feel repeated and unearned. I feel like the excitement of theatrical Star Wars and the fairly fun vibe this movie can have are saving it a bit for me right now. I do wonder if I watch this in a few months on Disney Plus if I will like it less, but for right now, for my first viewing, I would recommend this to Star Wars fans and fans of The Mandalorian. There's some decent characters I wasn't expecting much from, the action has some really cool moments, but if you were wondering what more can be done with these characters and their arcs, this movie doesn't provide much to satisfy that, and the story is serviceable but plain. Overall, I had a positive experience with The Mandalorian and Grogu. I give it a 72 out of 100. So now that Not Quite My Tempo is back for the summer, look out for episodes on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I have this review coming out today, and then the Backrooms review should be in a few hours, so look out for that as well. And then after those two that I'm kind of catching up on, look out for Wednesdays and Saturdays for new reviews, recommendations, lists, all things movies, and we are keeping things going for the summer. I will most likely return to WFNP Rosendale again once school starts. But for now, over the summer, we're going to keep things going with separate YouTube videos for each segment and spacing it out a little bit. I'm so excited for this summer of movies. It's going to be great, and I will be back very soon. Enjoy.